Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to Predator Exotics. Welcome to episode 5 of the Rippin Reptile Podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing what, in our opinions, are the top 5 most common reptiles that are kept in the community, and kind of our opinion / maybe some better alternatives that we could suggest.
Yeah, so we've come up with this top 5 list, but it is a pretty generic top 5. I'm pretty sure most reptile hobbyists would agree this is the top 5 reptiles in the reptile
Charging
hobby.
battery.
So we have got we got 3 lizards and 2 snakes on our top 5 list. So first off, we've got the bearded dragon, we've got the leopard gecko and the crested gecko, and then for the snakes we've got the ball python, or if you're in the UK, a royal python, or the corn snake.
Yeah, so we're just kind of going through the list, kind of starting anywhere. To be fair, we haven't really ranked it from 1 to 5. It's just the generic 5, and then just discuss them. Maybe discuss some cooler morphs you can get, because I feel like people going into keeping these top 5 always just get the generic stuff, and it's like I don't know if you're aware that there's maybe a different alternative or a cooler morph you can get than just the plain normal one. And yeah, it might be a bit more expensive, but you're going to stand out a bit more.
Yeah, you could get the normal one to start with, because obviously, especially if it's your first reptile.
Yeah.
You get a bearded dragon, you don't know if you might not, obviously you've done your research, but you might not be the best at caring for them. So there's a lot of difference between maybe buying a £60 bearded dragon to a £300 bearded dragon. If you're the first starting, you might want to just go in soft and then go in for the big ones a bit later.
So in terms of ones that we've actually kept out of the top 5 list, currently keep bearded dragon, crested gecko, and I have in the past kept a leopard gecko, which we did talk about in episode 1 of the podcast, actually.
Yeah, it's the only one we've both kept.
Is the leopard,
only reptile
yeah. But then, I said, I wasn't really understanding of how to keep them, what better options were, or I was just a young kid, so hopefully we kind of bring a bit more light to that situation for other people looking into getting into reptiles.
Yeah, so let's kick off with the bearded dragon.
The bearded dragon, who is currently sitting next to me, and he has just woken up from a nice long nap. I think he's been asleep for about a week now. He is up and he's lively.
Would you recommend the bearded dragon as a beginner reptile?
I would not, actually, no. And the thing with that is a lot of people do. A lot of people do. A lot of shops do. Places I've spoke to. But I feel there's so much that you actually need to research and behind the scenes stuff that happens that people don't tell you. For starters, you need a lot of space. You need a minimum of a 4-foot tank, which currently sits on my computer desk, and that becomes really expensive. It starts to rack up. Just buying a massive wooden box with some glass is actually quite expensive. And then of course the actual dragon itself. But in terms of I wouldn't recommend it as a starter pet. It's a great pet to keep. I love the bearded dragon. I love keeping him. But there's so much that I just even though I did so much research, I didn't have a clue on some stuff that was happening, like eye bulging. That thing scared the hell out of me. No one told me about that. I didn't see it on any guides or anything about research of learning how to do the bearded dragon until I actually googled it, and then you find some weird forum that they then explain this is kind of what is happening, and I feel like people don't really talk about it.
Yeah, they don't really talk about the behaviors. They tell you what temperature to keep it, what humidity to keep it, all that stuff, and they don't tell you about eye bulging, pancaking,
sleeping,
sexy leg
for 3 weeks at a time.
The brumation side of it is actually quite a big thing with bearded dragons, which I didn't even realise until you sort of got one.
And then
once you said it was happening, I researched it and was like, oh, they do it quite a lot.
You start to think that he's dying or something is wrong with him, but he is actually perfectly fine. He comes out, a couple of weeks later, he's back out, he's eating normally, going to the bathroom, and just loving life. And I feel like a massive thing, and this is obviously a controversial topic, is a big thing is, of course, impaction. and
Substrate.
about what to keep it on. It is a massive topic, and I know people have a lot of different opinions on it. But I feel like it's just, it is personal opinion. We have our opinion. We won't go too much into it, but it is another thing that isn't really explained. I feel like a lot of people do just say it's a bad thing, straight off the bat.
It's also hard as well, because even like it depends which pet shop you go to.
Yes.
Like we've had some pet shops where they're like, do not keep it on anything other than sand, because they need to ingest some of the sand to like grind up all the like food inside the stomach. And then other ones, they want you to keep it like sterile. So
yeah, they're like, do not keep it on sand. It's the worst thing for your bearded dragon. And I feel like a lot of people go to the extent where it's like, you keep it on sand, it's going to die. And that's not necessarily true. It's not true. It's, monitoring, making sure he's going to the bathroom, making sure that he can eat properly and he's not ingesting too much. And then, like you said, with behavioral patterns, another big thing that I've read about online is fake plants in the actual enclosure for a bearded dragon. And like how people have had bearded dragons, like they've gone to sleep and they've woken up and all the fake plants have been eaten. It's caused impaction.
Yeah.
But Loki has literally, when I put the fake plants in there, he walked up to them, licked them, and that was it. He never had any interest anymore in the fake plants. So it's a massive thing with bearded dragons, is their personality varies so differently.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's really explained in a lot of the videos.
Yeah, because obviously some people can do a bioactive setup with them. Like they've actually managed to do put like succulents and stuff in there, and their beardy doesn't really care about them, whereas other people try it and the beardy just absolutely ravages it.
Yeah. And then...
But another thing I researched quite recently, obviously like straight sand, like people say it's bad for impaction and stuff. Like if you are going to have a loose substrate, make it with like bigger rocks and stuff inside the sand,
which we have done. Don't know if you guys have seen our video.
I forgot to tell you, basically straight sand, the other reason why it's quite bad is because it doesn't support them. If you think like when you're trying to walk on a sandy beach, you like sink into the sand.
You're falling over
really
half
bad.
the time.
It's really bad for their joints.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's all right for like the dwarf sand geckos we've got, because they're light. They just walk on top of the sand. Like a bearded dragon, he's like sort of trudging. Like it's not good for their joints, which is things that
and so
quite interesting.
Which is why we do keep it on a mixture now of bigger kind of rocks and sand. But yeah, I feel like there's just so much that people don't tell you about the bearded dragon. And then people go and buy them, and then suddenly, we've heard of a lot of cases. We had one like where my girlfriend, the friend's neighbor, they discovered that the bearded dragon was just malnourished. It was in a tank with a leopard gecko. It was just, what was going on? And I feel like that is just lack of knowing. But then because they're only £60, they're easily accessible.
Yeah. And so so obviously Loki is a morph. It is a hypocitrus.
Yes.
Do you like that morph, or
I love the morph.
Ones that you?
I love the morph. Of course, it did. It brought up the price quite a bit.
Yeah.
Compared to a regular bearded dragon, but he looks awesome. He is super cool. And I think that is awesome. I like that he has the genes in him, especially if we decide to breed in the future. Because we got Loki when he was a year old, so he's got loads of years left to go. But yeah, so I love the morph.
Is there another morph that you would want that is like a higher end morph?
Yeah, the pure black ones.
Oh really? What are they called?
I will try and Google it.
So I like the zero ones, which are like a grey-white colour. They're pretty cool.
Let me see if I can find it. Because they also come with the different pattern morphs. Like
so there's
I'll let you talk about that while I'm trying to find this.
the 0 one actually gets rid of all pattern and colour. So that's why you get like an all white, all grey bearded dragon, which is pretty cool. And different ones have like different amounts of like tiger striping. You can get like bluish greys on their back, which I think is quite cool. And then paradox ones. Obviously, paradox isn't genetic in bearded dragons. You get like the different morph blotches come through. They're pretty cool, but the price of them is a lot. Where's this black bearded dragon? You made it up.
I just made it up. No. I maybe. I can't seem to find the picture, but there was a picture of a guy that had one.
Is it fake?
Oh, here's a picture of one. So I'll show them on the stream. Which is this one here.
Does it have a name, the morph? Or?
Not that I can see. No, not that I can see. It's just one of those ones. But then I also like these. We've seen some cool, like really dark red ones.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And then the white one is a cool one. It is something unique on that aspect.
So if you didn't want to get a morph of a bearded dragon, you want to go for something else, what sort of species would you recommend?
Of course are you talking about a different species to the bearded dragon? Like as
so if someone was like, oh, I want something like a bearded dragon, but like they don't want a bearded dragon because everyone's got a bearded dragon.
Well, of course, the next one, is the bougie one, which is the Euromastics.
Yeah. So they're a little bit more expensive.
Just a little bit more expensive.
It depends which one you go for. Well, if you go for like a Saharan or a Moroccan Euromastics, it's like anywhere from 200 to 300. So it's not dissimilar to like a Hypocitrus morph.
Yeah. And they are quite cool. Their tails are quite cool.
And they don't eat bugs a lot.
Yeah.
Like when they're little, they eat a few, but as adults, they eat just like seeds, millet, and vegetables.
So especially if you're in a household that doesn't want to keep live food, then that would be a great alternative for you. And
it's the same size tank, like a 4-foot tank. You just need it hotter as well.
Yeah, quite like I think it's like closer to.
It's like 50 degrees.
Yeah.
Like you pretty much need like 2 bulbs. So that it's not overloading one bulb, you need like 2 next to each other. So they're a little bit more advanced than like a bearded dragon, but it is an alternative. Or if you wanted to downgrade on the size, you can get one of my favourite ones, which I tried to persuade you to get, is the Rankin's dragon.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Rankin's dragons.
So they're pretty cool. It's like there is a dwarf bearded dragon, which is a separate species. But there's also the Rankin's dragon, which is a smaller bearded dragon. You could probably keep that in a 3-foot tank if you didn't want like a 4-foot one.
And they're more communal, so you can keep a few more of them in that size tank as well.
Yeah.
As opposed to the bearded dragon is one large animal in the tank. So those are kind of like some of the alternatives we would suggest for that kind of thing. Moving on to the next animal, which I'll let you pick which one we move on to.
Let's go for Cresty.
The Cresty, which we also keep, and I have over here as well. A great animal. I think it's my go-to recommendation for someone who wants to keep a reptile.
It's probably even better than a leopard gecko.
Yeah.
It's arguably better.
It doesn't need live food. That is an
optional you can get the ones with the insects inside the mix, so it comes with all its protein rather than having to.
And this kind of size tub, it racks you like £16, but this will last weeks. This will last for ages, and you can stock up spares, especially on sales and stuff like that. Also has loads of cool morphs.
Yeah.
For options.
So first off, would you recommend it?
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, yeah.
it is my go-to if someone's like, oh, I'm interested in keeping a reptile. Watch that. Get a crested gecko. Get a crested gecko. They're awesome to watch.
And you got a lot of options, like tank options as well. Like you can do like a normal setup. You can do, because we obviously started with normal setup and then we moved on to bioactive setup.
Yeah.
So you got options there.
Which was also an interesting learning curve as well, setting up the bioactive one.
But I think some people might be put off by the tail dropping.
Yeah, but it is
like I know you can be concerned about that at times. But
then the more you research it, that like the more it is just like an absolute gamble of if it happens or not.
Yeah, because like some people are like, oh, there's a thunderstorm, then my Cresty drops its tail.
Whereas like, we've picked it up before and it's like scuttled around and like, but it's never dropped its tail. It never seems to be like scared like that. But yeah, some people, like a thunderstorm, like one clap of lightning and he drops his tail. It's like, but then I don't think they look bad without them. I think they look a bit sometimes their tails look a bit strange, to be honest.
I prefer a Cresty without a tail than like a leopard gecko with a regenerated tail. Because the regen tail just looks weird. I'd rather it just didn't grow back.
Yeah. No, yeah, it is a worrying thing, but like at the end of the day, it's nothing bad. It just is what happens sometimes.
Well, yeah, like no one's ever found an adult crested gecko in the wild with a tail.
But if you were more of a like someone with OCD or something like that, I feel like you'd be a bit more.
And if you plan on breeding them as well, like they're probably going to drop their tail because breeding can be a bit aggressive. And then we don't even have a normal crested gecko, do we?
No, we have a harlequin crested gecko.
Yep.
Which is a lovely brown kind of cream mix. And
it's got some decent striping on it, the harlequin. So.
Yeah, and this is definitely one that we will be breeding. Like I think we've talked about it and we confirmed that we will be breeding our crested gecko in the future and some other crested geckos. But yeah,
so you had the choice of the flame and the harlequin.
Yes.
And you picked the harlequin.
I did because it had a more color variation. The flame was cool, but it was just kind of
flame sounds a lot better than it is.
Yeah. It's just kind of
you think it's going to be red, but it's just got like a little bit less brown. Like it's not as good as sort of you think. I would either go. The tricolours are quite cool.
Yeah.
Which is like the next step up from the harlequin. So you got like the striping with like the white, red, and brown.
Yeah.
And then my favourite is the Super Dalmatian.
Yeah.
Which is like the really spotty ones. Obviously, you get Dalmatian, then you get the super ones.
And then
where you start getting more and more.
There is the like ultra expensive one of the.
Oh yeah, if like that's like a top end. Bred here in the UK actually.
Oh really?
For the first time. Yeah, they started in the UK.
Okay.
Then they shipped it over to the US.
Yes, that's cool. That's cool.
I think it was even near. It was near us. It was in like Surrey.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn, that would be an interesting place to go see as well.
Yeah. Yeah, they bred them, and then obviously they're everywhere now. But they're still like £500 each. Yeah. So you can go from like a £40 crested gecko to like a £500 crested gecko.
And that's another thing with these ones. I feel like even with the pattern difference, other than the exception of, some crazy ones like the lily white, it's not a massive margin difference in price.
Yeah, the Super Dalmatian is only £80.
Yeah, and like.
But then I don't know what there is between the Super Dalmatian and the lily white. Like it seems like a massive.
It's just a big jump.
There must be some sort of things. Yeah. Like I've seen some lemon ones and stuff. But I don't know if a lot of it's available here in the UK.
Yeah. No, yeah, it'd definitely be something we'd have to try and look for and get in contact with some people. But in terms of caring for these animals, it's super easy.
They are easy.
It is a really easy thing to do. And of course they're really handleable as well.
And you've got yours on an automated mister now as well.
Automated mister. I feed her at night. We believe it's a she. It's still quite young. Feed it at night, automated mister for the bioactive setup, and just does its thing. That's pretty much it. And then of course we do feed it bugs, which people some say you shouldn't feed them bugs or they don't eat bugs, but that is just.
I think some people just can't be bothered.
That's just false information.
Yeah, they will eat bugs, and they do actually go. I saw a video yesterday. I should have sent it to you. You know, you're like, oh, she goes into rage mode.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I saw a crested gecko that goes even more mental.
The one thing,
like they put the bug in, and it was literally like thrashing around the tub, like
we should
eating
mention
these crickets.
Is that if you're feeding it, not the Repashy or the whatever brand you've got, it's when you feed them a bug and then you put your hand in the tank, they still think that's a bug. So I have been bit out of just pure carelessness, not realizing that it's still in kill mode for the bugs. But if it's eating the Repashy or whatever brand you're using, it doesn't go into that mode. It's just kind of a bit more docile. And
I still feel like crested geckos are like they're common, but I still feel like they're not one that's like people get bored.
Yeah.
I feel like people can get bored of bearded dragons and leopard geckos. Whereas crested geckos, they only got rediscovered they thought they were extinct until like 1996.
Yeah.
And then they rediscovered them. The same person that makes the Repashy food. Like, he's the person that rediscovered them. And then, so they've only been back in the hobby like 25 years.
And they are just really cool. Like, yeah, there's just so many different aspects. Like, they feel cool to hold. Like, with their little webbed feet.
Like, they're like suede velvet.
They jump around, like, proper leaping. They stick to anything, so they can just climb the walls. There's just, it is one of my favourite animals, and that is why, like, I really want to breed them.
Yeah.
In the
but if someone did
future.
not want a crested gecko,
what
would you?
If you were
going, there's obviously the natural progression of crested gecko.
Yeah.
Like lineage.
If you were asking me what's an easier animal to keep or a simpler one, I'd say you're kind of at the bottom of the line. Like that's there isn't a lot. But if you're like, I like. No, thank you. No, I'm in the middle of something. No, I can't stop it. Sorry for the interruption. If you were like, I wanted more of a more advanced one, then there's so many more options you can go for. You've got the gargoyle gecko. You've got, if you
the mossy gecko.
The mossy
it literally
gecko.
goes like crested gecko down here, and then you like go to the gargoyle gecko, and then you go to the mossy gecko or the chihuahua gecko, depending on what you call it, and then you go right up to the top here, which is the lychee, the big, chunky boy.
If you were like after something more like aggressive, you could go for the Takeo gecko.
Oh, the Tokos, yeah.
Like you've got so many different options that are similar to the crested gecko.
Once you start with the crested gecko, then you can decide if you don't like handling your gecko, you can go down like the day gecko route.
There's just
because it's like the same size tank, but like they're not really handleable because they're like so delicate. You could go into that.
Geckos are awesome. They are one of my personal favorites is the arboreal geckos, and of course I would want to keep more of them in the future, because that'd be crazy to keep like a lychee or something along those lines.
Yeah, I can't wait. But you are looking at, because now when they first came out, sort of people were just like having lychees, whereas now people like to get their specific island locale of lychee.
Yeah,
because obviously New Caledonia is like like an archipelago of islands. And people now, they're like, oh, I want the Pine Island one. And there's like the Grand Terra one, which grows bigger and stuff, so they're different prices, and the price goes up if you get like a specific locale.
Yeah, and yeah, just some of the options that are I'm getting phone calls now, like people can't leave me in peace just to record a podcast. So yeah, you've got so many different branches, as I say, that you can go into, which is awesome. And so definitely ones we will be keeping as well.
Yeah, let's take it back down from the arboreal gecko down to terrestrial level.
Down onto the ground.
Down on the ground, and let's go to probably most popular one on the whole list is the leopard gecko.
Yeah, I feel like out of the list, these are probably the ones that like have been kept the most, because this is your pet shop saying you want an easy animal to keep.
Yeah.
Here's a leopard gecko. Put it on some sand and you're fine. And it's like,
don't, please.
Yeah, please don't.
But then obviously, like, they get like a bad rap because like you go into Pets at Home or PetSmart in the US, and they're not always in the best condition.
Yeah, I feel like mine was a bit malnourished. I feel like.
Oh, where did you get yours from?
Just it was a generic shop.
Was it like a pet store or reptile shop?
It was a pet store. It was a chain store.
Oh, okay. See, I got mine from Aquamania, so it was like a small reptile shop.
I don't even remember the name, but it was just one of your generic pet store, massive super chain brands.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I was like, I want an easy reptile and leopard gecko, and then it like I had to do research because the person in the shop was not actually helpful in terms of what they told me to keep them on. And I had to make a lot of changes in the actual thing.
So would you get a leopard gecko again?
No, I wouldn't. Maybe. I don't know. It's
at all.
It's a 50-50 for me. I want the what are they called? The night ones?
The black one.
Other than that, I don't really have an interest in them, I'm afraid. It's not
like the type. Blanco ones, the white ones are quite cool. Other than that, they're a little bit boring.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to all the leopard gecko fans out there.
But... A lot of people are leopard gecko fans are listening to this, but they're just not our kind of thing, I'm afraid. It's just...
So I used to like... Obviously, I liked my one.
Yeah.
And I liked it the whole time. But then I didn't really know any other reptiles.
Yeah. Very similar situation.
I had a normal, so then I wanted the carrot tail one. And now it's gone from carrot tail to just getting all orange ones. Yeah.
And then it's just it is just a bit plain because there's so many better options for
unless you've got a really nice bioactive tank for it. Other than that, it's just a little bit simple. Because I've got into some of the alternative ones for leopard gecko.
Yeah, and I feel like you're more inclined to say the alternatives because you've been looking into them a bit more than I have.
So I like the East Indian leopard gecko. So it's not a subspecies, it's actually a specific species of leopard gecko. So they're both in the Eublepharis genus, but leopard geckos are macularis, and then you've got the hardwicki, which is the East Indian leopard gecko. So they're more banded, and they're a little bit more tropical. So they come from the tropical regions in India rather than the drier parts. And then there's a plains leopard gecko, which is a subspecies of it. So they're found in the drier savannas. So there's loads of different ones you can get into. Yeah. Which are really cool. Even if you want a leopard gecko, you can get a specific leopard gecko, so that it's something a little bit different. So that we're sort of expanding. People aren't just it's a leopard gecko. They can expand their horizons.
It's specifically this one kind of thing.
And then the other one that's sort of rising in popularity quite a lot is the African fat tail.
Yeah, and we've seen them in quite a few shops we've gone to now.
Yeah, so they're still a little bit pricey. A normal gecko is going to be £40. An African fat tail's sort of $75 for a normal. Yeah. But you can get a normal. You can get a skunk line, which has a white line all the way down its head and back and tail.
Oh, okay.
Or you can get the Oreomorph and the white
I've
owl.
seen the Oreomorph. Yeah,
they're really cool.
If I had to get one, I'd probably get that one.
Or another one we've been looking at is the Chinese ones.
Oh, that is not where I thought you were going to go with that one.
Where do you think I was going to go?
The helmeted.
Oh no, they're
That's what I thought you were gonna say.
Yeah, I would liken them more to they're more of a dwarf gecko species.
Okay.
They're smaller.
Yeah. In terms of the bigger one, okay.
Yeah, like the why can't I think of the name? The Chinese ones.
Cave gecko.
Oh yeah, Chinese cave gecko. I couldn't think. I was just thinking of the Latin name, the Goniosaurus hainiensis or whatever.
Oh yeah, because that's easier to remember.
Yeah. So yeah, they're really cool. And then you don't just have the Chinese cave gecko; you get like the Japanese cave gecko and stuff. And they're a little bit more on the tropical side, so it's easier to do a bioactive setup because you can do it more tropical. Whereas a leopard gecko, you have to kind of like. It's harder to do a arid bioactive setup. Obviously, you can get like the Arcadia Earth Mix Arid, like mix it with some sand, put some succulents in.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit more difficult than a tropical one.
Yeah, you would definitely recommend a different one then to the leopard gecko?
Yeah.
Yeah. In a wrap up of that one.
Like, it depends. If it was like maybe someone under 15 or like a child, like even like under 10 or whatever, I'd be like, get a leopard gecko because your parents probably be easier. Your parents could research it easier than like you can. Whereas like when you're like 10 or whatever, you're relying on your parents to sort of
having to research Chinese cave gecko.
Whereas like if you're into your reptiles a little bit more and you're a little bit older, have a look at some of the different options because you can get some really cool ones.
Yeah. So moving on to the next one is the corn snake.
We can do corn snake.
Yeah, we'll do corn snake. We'll end on bull python. Neither of us have kept snakes. So,
obviously we can't keep snakes at the moment. So
due to parental restrictions
in
the household, which is perfectly understandable. I feel like they are the most feared animal in the reptile kingdom.
Yeah.
No matter what size, I feel like if someone has a fear of snakes, doesn't matter what size the snake is, they're not going to like them. But personally, both of us love snakes. We can't wait to keep them.
Yeah. Corn snakes, I'm not a huge fan of.
They're a bit plain.
They're a bit plain.
They're cool.
There's some really cool ones. We'll talk about the morphs in a minute, but like the normal corn snake is just a bit bland.
Like I feel like any snake is cool, but yeah, you could get a better option.
It's a little bit vanilla.
It's a little like, and I'm sure there's people out there like we said that love corn snakes, love keeping corn snakes, have a big passion for corn snakes. They're just not our kind of thing. Definitely some better options I feel to choose from.
So yeah. In terms of, we can't obviously recommend these sort of things because we haven't kept them. But like in terms of snakes rather than lizards, you're only feeding it once a week, which is something that you can obviously. There's a lot different to feeding it every other day.
The only difference being the thing you're feeding it is a lot.
Yeah,
bigger.
But even that as well is probably easier because you don't have to rely on a supply of crickets. You don't have to go to PetStore
keeping
every week or
as well.
Yeah, you have to like feed the crickets. You can just buy a bag of 10 frozen mice and it's going to last you like a couple of months.
Yeah.
Like and as they get bigger, some of them don't even eat every week, so
it just becomes like, in terms of keeping them, I feel like it's really easy, especially the corn snake.
Yeah, if you do like an aspen setup and stuff like that, it's easy to keep clean. Like you can still put all your decoration in there, so it's like enriching the animal, but you're keeping it a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
But is there like a certain morph that you would get if you were going to get a corn snake?
No, I don't think so. I like the generic ones quite a bit actually, to be fair. Like I'm a big fan of like the red ones. And like
but the normal ones are like orangey, aren't they?
Yeah, with like a darker reddish pattern kind of in the center, which I'm just like if I was to get a corn snake, I'd probably just get an orangey red one, to be honest.
Because you can get the ochre one, which is like you're saying, like the red in the middle of the orange.
Yeah.
That has like a black ring around it, so they're more like defined. It looks a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
So I think that's something you might be interested in. But I'm personally the palmetto.
Oh, okay.
Which is the white one with the orange and red little like specks on it. So they're pretty cool. Almost looks like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're like pure white and it's got like little flecks on it. They're pretty cool. I'd possibly get one of them. And then one I actually found today it was a blood red pied.
Okay.
I don't know if you can look it up, but it was like pure red on the top, but then halfway down the sides it was white.
Oh yeah, I've got a picture.
So like the belly and halfway up the sides was white, and then the top was like blood red.
They're pretty cool. Yeah, that actually, cool. Yeah, I like that one quite a bit. That's some cool colours.
They're the only two I'd really look at. Like, I don't really like any of the pattern morphs with the striping and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're a bit
like
naff.
They're just a bit plain.
Yeah.
But if you don't want a corn snake, you've got loads of options.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've got like tons of different colubrid snakes that's similar to corn snakes. Like you've got all your different king snakes. So you've got like mountain king snakes, California king snakes, all those different ones. Like I like the Nuevo Leon king snake and the variable king snakes. They're very cool if you look them up. And then you've got Texas rat snakes. That's just North American rat snakes. And you've got all the Asian rat snakes. You've got Thai bamboo rat snakes, which I really want to get. The red ones with the either black banding or black striping. You've got the Mandarin rat snakes, which are like yellow and black ones. They're super cool. There's tons.
Yeah, definitely. You could go for something like a milk snake as well.
Oh yeah, milk snakes,
which is one of my personal favourites, and definitely can like more of.
And milk snakes, even if you get into milk snakes, you've got Pueblo milk snakes, Honduran milk snakes. Like, there's just so many different options.
With snakes, I feel like it's a major thing. You either know the options or you don't. I feel like there's no in between. I didn't know all these snakes existed, and then people are keeping them. It's one of the options.
Because I feel like snakes, they know the genetics a lot more, so there's a lot more morphs. Like crested geckos, like if you put a Dalmatian with a Harlequin, there's not like a split. You just sort of mix them together.
Yeah.
Whereas the genes are quite regimented. So even once you get to like, if you've got a milk snake, you could get like a T negative albino, which is paler, or T positive albino, which has got a little bit more colour. There's tons. You can get the Halloween ones, which instead of being like black and red and white or whatever, they're just the black and red.
Yeah. So there is so many more options for a beginner-ish small snake.
Yeah.
But then moving on to a bigger snake.
Yeah, so a corn snake is obviously a colubrid, so it's more of a thinner-bodied snake. It's going to get like 4 to 6 feet. The same as a ball python will get 4 to 6 feet, but it's a python, not a colubrid, so it's going to be thicker-bodied.
Thick.
Thick.
Which is, moving on to the fifth one in this list, and the final one that we'll be talking about today is the ball python, which we have a good friend who actually breeds these. I'll throw up his link right here on the screen. I'll throw up his @ so go check out his Instagram. His name's Sam, and yeah, he's a breeder for
the one thing I find with ball pythons is the people that get into it.
It's like 100% commitment.
I don't know at what point do you just get one and then
this
is
what I mean. We are planning to have Sam on the podcast at some point.
Yeah.
In the future when COVID goes away, and we can actually do stuff. We're going to have him on the podcast, and we can discuss this a bit more about how you would actually get started into this kind of thing.
Because it seems like people get one, and then all they have is ball pythons.
Because it's that going for the genes. It's like,
out of all the ones we've talked about, ball python genetics is the most understood.
Yeah.
Like there's thousands,
and
they have more like every day.
And then a lot of it is like a gamble on what you produce. So people go hard for, trying to get this.
Because it's not just one. Like, even if you had one morph, you can layer it with different morphs. So you can get snakes with like 6 different morphs in them, and breeding the 2 parents, you've got like a 1 in 100 chance of getting that one. So I think it's quite addictive.
Yeah, and you can definitely see why people get into just that as the hobby, because it takes a lot of time as well to if you.
I guess once you're in it and you're like, there's all these different morphs, you don't have time to think about any other reptiles.
Which is why I think definitely in the future we might keep a ball python, but we probably won't go as deep into the breeding side.
So what? Obviously, there's certain ones that we'd look into getting. Banana is a good one.
I love the banana one.
Is that the only one you?
I'm pretty sure there's the one that I don't know if this is technically a specific morph, but I've seen the picture of it where it has like the smiley face pattern on his back.
Oh yeah, so it's a pied. So it's a white snake with the normal pattern on it.
Yeah. But
it's random.
Yeah, and one of them.
So when you get a pied, like that normal pattern goes like stripy. Yeah. And if like one of the blotches is circular, the stripes can be like 1 stripe and then just 2 little stripes, so it looks like a smiley face.
And I like that.
And it's random, so you can keep breeding your pieds, and then you'll end up with, because even if you had like one that was high white, so like 90% white and 10% normal, if you breed it, you could get like 90% normal and 10% white ones.
Yeah, but yeah,
I've seen the picture. You can't breed them. Yeah.
Of the
so yeah, they're cool.
That's like a cool thing.
If it was me, my favorite is the highway, or the pastel highway, which is a bit like how it sounds. They've got like road markings down the back, like dotted line. So they're very cool. And one that I feel like is really underrated is bamboo, because you can mix it with loads of stuff and like the pattern's quite funky. If you get like a lesser bamboo.
I searched bamboo and the first search is bamboo ball python. Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
But like even with them, like you can then layer different stuff. Like you get pastels, enchi. Like it's pretty much unlimited options.
If you guys are going into this, it is endless in what you can get. But some of these sell for thousands.
Like ridiculous. Like a normal ball python is like 60 quid.
Yeah.
There's ones out there that are like £50,000.
Like, so in terms of out of the list of 5 that we're talking, the marginal difference on price here is this is the one that has the biggest gap.
And the thing with them as well, like certain ones, like ones today that are worth £50,000, in 10 years' time they're going to be worth like £5,000.
Yeah,
because people are going to be breeding them. Like ones that 20 years ago, like albinos, were worth like thousands and thousands of pounds, and now you can pick them up for like a couple hundred.
And that's what we're talking about with the gamble aspect of it, because if you get it first, it's worth a lot of money. And so it's just a kind of like luck of the draw. And if you get this specific morph with the specific pattern, you could sell it for loads.
So we can't really cover everything with ball pythons because there's too much to talk about.
No, we will definitely have
just one thing. We'll have Sam on.
We'll have Sam on with the Ball Python podcast.
Yeah.
Which actually, I'll give him a shout out right now. He's also started a podcast. So if you guys are interested in that, it's called Racks to Riches. And I think he has just released 1 episode so far.
He's released. My gecko is doing something very weird right now.
How is it doing?
I'll try and get it.
You gonna try it?
It's laying on its back. Oh, it's about to move. Can you see it?
Oh yeah. What?
Did you see it or not before he flipped?
Yeah, I saw it.
He was literally sitting up, like
just
chilling. As if he was on a chair. just sitting there. I just looked up and his white belly was just like.
I'll try and zoom in on that, see if we can get a bigger picture of it. But anyway, yeah, so Sam's podcast, Racks to Riches, go check it out. He has just started it, and he covers a lot more into ball pythons and breeding them and creating a business around it.
Yeah. What else would, if you weren't keeping a ball python, what would you keep?
That's a hard question.
Would you not know?
I feel like
people just have a ball python. Like,
it is in itself you can either make it complex to keep, or you can keep it quite simply. It's it depends which route you want to take. I feel like in terms of answering the question of what else you can keep, I'm just going to go with what else we would want to keep in terms of snakes of that kind of aspect. And of course, hognose is one that we want to keep. And I feel like they are around the same difficulty range.
Yes, a lot of snakes you just keep the same way if you're keeping them in a basic sort of setup.
And I feel like there's quite a lot of gene research in that one. Not as much, but still quite a bit. So I feel like that's a good alternative. The only other thing being that it is venomous. Yeah.
What I would say is probably the one that I like is the spotted pythons, children's pythons, Stimpson's pythons.
Yeah.
They're the Anteraceae family, so they're a group of dwarf pythons from Australia. So you're looking at more of like a corn snake style, like thinner body.
Yeah.
Same sort of size, but they're a python, and they're very cool. They're about sort of 100, just over 100 pounds here. So it's not even that much more expensive.
Yeah, it is harder to recommend different alternatives to ball python because it's quite such a specific thing, and
there's the
it's
blood
its own
pythons.
Category.
Have you seen the blood pythons?
I don't think so.
They're also called like fat tail pythons or short tail pythons.
Oh, okay. Oh,
they're aggressive. They're like super aggressive.
Damn, they get big as well.
And they've got some nice morphs. There's like if you look up the ivory blood python.
Oh, see, that one looks better. The other one had a weird red on it, and it was just the red just looked a bit
But gross. They're pretty cool. But then they're more aggressive. Like ball pythons, obviously very popular because they're so docile. They just curl up into a ball.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Is quite easy to keep, but it can be quite complex, especially if you go down the breeding route. But I think we're coming up to about 50 minutes right now on the podcast.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So I think we'll look into wrapping it up because we have completed the list of the 5 now. Any final thoughts on?
If you had to pick one of the 5, what would you pick?
The crested gecko.
Crested gecko.
Yeah, I have found a love for the crested geckos. Yourself?
I probably would have to go. I'd get a super Dalmatian crested gecko.
Yeah. So, it is a generic pet, but it is...
Oh, are you frozen again?
Oh, you're not frozen.
Okay. Okay.
So, it's a generic pet, but it's an awesome generic pet. And you can get some cool ones of it. But yeah, so I think we're just going to wrap it up now for the podcast.
Yeah, just if you keep any of the top 5, leave a comment down below.
Of which ones you keep?
And what morph it is.
Yes, yeah, actually that's we want to hear about what kind of morphs you guys are keeping. But we hope you have enjoyed the 5th episode of the Rippin Reptile Podcast, and we will catch you guys in the next one.
We will.
Bye guys.
Bye guys.